I'm not coming down. I wanna go higher, higher, higher than that.
Welcome back to the Business is Human podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Fleetwood Hession, and we're here to bring you episodes that blend meaningful work with profitable success. Here to steward what I call the age of humanity. I believe if we transform the way we work, we can transform the way that we live. As always, my friendly request, if you like what you hear, hit subscribe so you don't miss any episode, and leave a review to tell the other humans that they might like it too. Always looking to help you and connect with others. All right, let's get into it, shall we? Hey, welcome to the show. I'm excited. We have a great guest today. His name is Bryan Clayton. And what I love about Bryan's story is this is a guy that just finds a need and fills it. He's looking for opportunities to serve in whatever way that he can. And it's working. So he took a lawn care business to a $10 million sale. Not an everyday occurrence. And then took some time to figure out what he wanted to do next and realized that there's this opportunity to kind of Uber lawn care so that you can just go to an app and hire a lawn care service. And so he built this, and many years later, almost a decade in, he has been written about in Forbes, Entrepreneur, Wall Street Journal, CNBC did a story. He is one of Inc. magazine's top entrepreneurs. This guy has figured out how to figure stuff out. And all of it based on a few nuggets that I want you to listen for today. The main one being that find something that a human needs and find a way to serve them well doing it. And then the money will come, and then the growth will come. Versus, especially in the tech space, where oftentimes it's, what's my sales number going to be when I sell this big thing, without thinking about, who does it serve? Does anybody even want this thing that I'm building? And so I love this conversation with Bryan because it is rich with leadership nuggets about what it means to understand who you're serving and serve them well. All right, here we go.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Good to connect with you, Rebecca.
All right. I'm excited to chat with you today. You have a lot of topics that are near and dear to my heart on your list of podcast topics. I've got all of your Inc. magazine, serial entrepreneur, all the stuff that gets written about us online. And I love that for credibility's sake. But what I really love is when an episode is the thing that touches your heart, because that always makes for a better conversation.
Totally.
So when you think about all of the things that you typically talk about or things that you wish you could talk about as it relates to business being human, that's the basis of my conversations, is that yes, business needs to control, measure, and optimize, but humans are personal, emotional, and social. And the best leaders and teams know how to integrate with safety and growth. So that's the work that I do. What are those topics that you go, oh man, I could talk about that all day? What is it?
One thing that happens a lot with founders, particularly of tech companies like mine, is that this weird gap forms between our logic and our customers' logic. And we forget that at the end of the day, yeah, we're building technology, but it is all people. And it is all about the people that use your products, the people that get value from your products. And if you lose sight of that, you then get stuck in this place where you're speaking a different language than your customers. And like they're looking at the problem that you solve from a different perspective from the problem that you think you're solving. And it's just this weird thing. And so it sounds trite and like obvious, but a lot of founders veer off course because the first thing we try to do is we try to outsource customer service. We try to, like, one of the first things we all try to delegate is customer service. And I used to do 100% of our customer service. Now we have 12 people that handle all of that, but I still do at least an hour a day. Sometimes I try to do 2 or 3 hours a day of live chat, of answering the 1-800 number, of processing email tickets, because that one little forcing function causes me to always be aware that it's actual human beings using our technology, and that these people have different problems. They have different expectations. Sometimes we let them down. And it's like always trying to keep that front and center is something that I try to bake into my daily habits. And so that's something I like to talk about because nobody talks about that.
When I read through your information, the thing that popped out to me is, of course, they call it serial entrepreneur, which sounds like I don't know, it always just sounds kind of shady. It's like, what, serial killer, serial entrepreneur? Like there's just something there that doesn't sit in my spirit.
Yeah, it needs better branding.
It does need better branding. But when I read through stories like yours, I think find a problem and solve it as really what you've been doing. Because you took a lawn care company to a $10 million sale. That's not normal, I don't think, in that industry. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. It doesn't happen often in like the home services industry. Yeah, that was kind of my first phase. And then I took some time off and then had to reboot and become a tech entrepreneur. And so the transition from a blue collar entrepreneur to a tech entrepreneur was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And
wasn't that just about you found a problem that you could solve with tech?
It was a couple things. It was, I wanted to start the next phase of my entrepreneurial journey. And so I thought it would be kind of cool to build something, because my landscaping company, we had thousands of customers, but I wanted to build something that had millions of users, millions of customers. And so I thought that, okay, well, the only way I could do that is with the tech platform. And the idea that you should be able to push a button and get a lawn mowing service to come take care of this chore for you was one that I had for years running my landscaping business. I saw every day how disorganized the marketplace was and how it was hard for somebody who needed a basic lawn mowing company to find them and hire them. And so that idea was one that I saw every day. And then when I sold the business, I took like a year to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And I thought, well, I'm going to try this. And I quickly learned that it's a lot harder than it looks, that inventing a new product from scratch that does not exist is a lot harder than just like getting in the trenches and slugging it out and building a blue collar style business. Both are hard, but inventing something was like 10 times harder. And so I was very much solving my own problem, but I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't know where to even start. And I just kind of just started, trialing and erring my way through it.
Well, and you're also needing to then teach people how to buy your service differently than what they're accustomed to.
Totally. It's not only are you inventing something brand new, but you're having to indoctrinate the masses that this is the new way of doing things. And this is actually a lot easier than doing it the old way. And so home services is kind of where food delivery was in 2011.
Yeah.
In 2011, if you wanted food delivery, you could have anything you wanted so long as it was pizza and Chinese. And then there was like these options like Grubhub and Seamless and a couple other little like websites where you could kind of like get it done. That's where home services is today. It's like where food delivery was back 15 years ago. People still do it the old way.
Right.
They still dial for dollars. They still leave voicemails. When there's platforms like GreenPal where you can just push a button and get it done. And so it's a lot harder than you think connecting what it is you do with the masses. So that's one of our biggest challenges is like combating the status quo.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the work I do connects your nervous system to behaviors in business. And so what you're doing is you're disrupting a pattern that has existed since forever ago, right?
It's just the way people have done it for decades.
Right.
And you have to quickly educate them in about 3 seconds that this is a better way of doing it.
Right. And it's safe and they can trust it's all those things.
All of those things you have to communicate, directly with good copy, but also indirectly with the product design and brand and your reputation and all of these things. You have to like overcome and educate and get somebody, okay, yeah, actually this does make sense. I could just put my address in this. I can just get somebody to come out and mow and I don't even have to make a phone call. Okay, where has this been my whole life? And so it's like, that's a lot harder to do than just like starting a blue collar business. And I did not know that when I started this 10 years ago. So the first like 5 years were like pushing a rope up a mountain. And now that we're a decade in, we're nationwide in the United States. We have around 300,000 people using the platform. And so things are going well now, but the first 5 years were really tough.
Well, the theme that I hear in your story is you're looking for things that are relevant, because you just said, I still get on and solve customer problems and look at the tickets a couple hours a day, which is not typical for somebody that's been in a tech business for a decade, right? You, like I said, been outsourcing it, but you're staying really close to the relevance of the customer, because I think what gets lost in the tech industry so much, and I have many clients that have, CEO founders, what gets lost from VCs is the relevance piece. It's all about how much is this going to sell for and what's the valuation of this? And it's all this money discussion. And I was always looking at the business model and saying, does anybody want this? Like,
Totally.
I know it's cool. It sounds really cool in your copy and your video, but who wants that?
And as simple as like what you just said sounds, that is the trap that 99% of new founders fall into. It's like building a product in search of a problem. And they, a lot of times, particularly in tech, these tech founders will try to disrupt and build new products and solutions in industries they've never worked in. And they've never really actually experienced the dynamics of that industry or the problems firsthand. And so then they set off on like this year-long, 2-year-long, sometimes 5-year-long quest to build something that nobody wants. And so the quicker you can get to 5, 10, 20 customers, the better. The sad thing is everybody wants to do everything but that. They want to, let me build the system. Let me build the brand. Let me get the social media going. It's like, let's just get 10 credit card numbers. And see if we can get somebody to pay us for what it is we're doing to make their life easier. And so, it's crazy how simple that advice is, but we all want to do everything but that, because that stuff's not fun.
And the number of times I've said to clients, what happens when they buy it? And then they get this look on their face like, oh, we're not there yet. I'm like, you might be late because that experience, especially if you're building something new, the experience of what happens when somebody finally says yes is everything to get them to trust whether they're going to come back or talk to somebody else about you. And I think we're in this weird, you exemplify this, we're in this weird space as a society where we starved out the trades industry and sent everybody to learn to code and sent everybody to college. And now you can't get a plumber to save your soul.
Yeah.
And my grandfather was a plumber, and I've been in this coaching business for 10 years. I almost started a plumbing business instead, because I knew where this was going to go. Like,
exactly.
Everybody got a toilet. Like,
happening.
at some point, there's going to be like such a high demand for this thing. And so we're in this weird kind of fun space that says we need this trades, blue collar work, but people are so accustomed to technology, and you are melding those two together in a really beautiful way, but not losing the relevance of your customer.
Yeah, that's one of the things that caught me by surprise when I started this company was, even though we're writing code and like building a product with millions of lines of code, and we're not like creating new technology, but we're kind of using some pretty advanced technology to make this thing magically happen. But at the end of the day, none of that matters if the patio doesn't get blown off, if all of the grass clippings aren't cleaned up, if the edges aren't nice and neat. It's like, I'm still in the lawn mowing business. After building and selling a $10 million landscaping company, and then building this product that tens of thousands of transactions are happening through, I'm still in the lawn mowing business. It's like, it doesn't matter that all of this technology, all of this product design, all of these things, none of that matters unless the lawn is completely mowed. And it's kind of the same thing if you think about like Airbnb. Like, Airbnb works and what they have built is incredible, but if you show up and the sheets are dirty, like, you don't care about any technology that they have built. And so it's the same thing. You can't lose sight of that. Like, nobody cares how good your product is designed or built if it doesn't do like the basic fundamentals of what it's supposed to do.
And that is a leadership message for any business. Even if you're working inside a large organization, I always want to know the work that you do in your department, where does it go next? And where do you get that work from? Because if you're not serving whoever inside the organization or an outside customer with high quality, then you're at risk.
And it's kind of like why that show, I don't know if it's still on, but there was a show called Undercover Boss.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if they're still doing that show.
I don't
Like,
either, but
that
I
show
was
so
obsessed with it for a
funny.
while.
Yeah, it's why it was so funny is like the CEO of whatever Dunkin' Donuts, and like to see him try to work the donut fryer, and like to see him like try to like deal with a customer who's pissed off that there's no sprinkle donuts, and like it's just a funny show, and it shouldn't be like that. Like that guy or gal should know the whole business soup to nuts end to end, and doesn't.
It
And that's
doesn't.
why that show was so funny to watch.
Yeah. Doesn't mean that he has to be in there doing the work every day, but you got to have enough context
Yeah,
to know what
Gotta
matters
know.
and what doesn't matter.
exactly.
Yeah. I just
Exactly.
read an article the other day that one of the latest Starbucks CEOs had a consultant background, and he tanked the company in like 6 months because he
Yeah.
didn't know the business. The numbers in the business are actually too different.
You
Thanks.
can't substitute that real world experience. And you can't do it all day long because you've got to run the company. But trying to bake that into your habits, like when I first mentioned, that's why I still answer the 1-800 number for at least an hour a day. I still try to stay in the trenches firsthand, so I don't lose sight of that. I don't lose sight of that we're trying to serve human beings to solve their problems with a platform.
Give me some examples of things that you've learned from being hands-on, answering the number and doing some of that frontline work.
Well, in the early days, the thing that was like probably saved the company was we had built the platform in such a way to deliver the cheapest lawn mowing service you could get. And because I had come to the starting block from a contractor's perspective, I had ran a traditional business. And when you have that perspective, you start to get jaded in a sense that you think that everybody just wants the cheapest solution. And you just believe that in your soul, because all day long you're running up against losing bids and losing contracts over price. And so then you just say, well, people just want the cheapest thing they can get. And so that's how we built the platform. We're like, hey, typically it's going to cost you $40 to get this done. Well, on GreenPal, you can get it done for 33 or something like that.
Gotcha.
And so we built the system, built the marketing, built the messaging all around that value proposition. And then what we began to learn just through talking to customers and what I ran up against every day was like, people cared about the price, but really what they wanted was the guy to show up on Thursday. Like he needed to be there on the day that they had booked the service,
Right.
because lawn care guys, lawn care pros, they're kind of like disorganized, and there's no barriers to entry in the business. And so it's just kind of like shoot from the hip and hope it happens. And I'll get there when I get there kind of thing. There was no accountability layer to any of this. And so what we kept finding over and over again is people would get upset. They would say, hey, I booked him for Wednesday, but it's Friday. He's not here. I texted him. He's not called me back. Does he want the job or not? Because if not, I need to find somebody else. And like this kept happening over and over and over and over again. And it wasn't a matter of, hey, do you have anybody cheaper? It was, do you have anybody that will come out and do it on the day they're supposed to?
Yeah.
So we had to like go back, rewrite all the copy, rebuild all the system, and rebuild it in such a way that it forced accountability from the suppliers and scored them rigorously on, these are the providers that are showing up on time. These are the ones that aren't. Let's promote and downgrade providers
So you
and expel
reward
ones that aren't taking this seriously. And like that was something that had we not been talking to customers consistently, we would have never come across that, because I just would have kept doubling down on price.
And that happens all the time.
Totally. It's like we don't want to get that negative feedback from customers, because as founders, we're so wrapped up in what we're building. And we, like for me personally, a lot of my confidence comes from my business, and a lot of my pride is wrapped up in my business. And so when someone gives me negative feedback about the business, it's negative feedback about me.
Yep.
And so
Straight to the heart.
so yeah. And so our tendency is to resist that and outsource that and shield ourselves from that. And so I had to rewire my brain into like, no, this isn't negative. This is free R&D.
Yeah.
This is happening not to you, it's happening for you, because this will save you years of wasted time and maybe even save you a failure. And so that's how I looked at it then and now, that, okay, yeah, this person's upset. The system let them down. Let's figure out what went wrong and where. And this is happening for us. We're going to make the business better because of this.
it plagues so many leaders is because our worth is so connected to our work that it's hard to be humble. We want to double down, or we're, like I said, we're just disconnected from it, and feedback feels like an attack instead of information to get better. But what you just said is gold for anybody willing to look at it through that lens, to say, you know what? If I didn't hear that, if I didn't receive it and say, okay, how am I going to shift based on that? You might not have made it.
Wouldn't have. And we would have wasted years building something that nobody wanted, banging our heads against the wall, trying to figure out why it wasn't working, when really all we needed to do was just answer the phone and listen to all of the 100 ways we were upsetting people. You know, and a lot of the small businesses do this intuitively because they have to. They needed that customer to pay their bills. But this weird thing happens when you start like trying to get into the technology space, and particularly if you raise investor money, that investor capital can kind of paper over a lot of these things and can cause you to deviate and lose sight of them. And so luckily for us, we funded the business off of its own revenues. And so we didn't have that temptation to do that. So yeah, we needed the sales. And then also I was reading every book I could at the time. This was 10 years ago. And the Lean Startup was a real popular book about this kind of thing. And that book tells you basically like three things. And that you've got to get out from behind the laptop. You got to talk to your customers. You got to meet them face to face, because your life depends on it as a business. And so that I took that to heart. And so luckily that was something that helped me avoid, building something nobody wanted.
I have a concept that I coach and say you have to have the story first, the human story first of relevance, and then money after. And what VCs often do is a money first story, and then try to back customers into it. And
in 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 100 times it works. And when it does work, it works really big. And so that kind of makes
then everybody chases it.
Yeah. And then you start to think, I need to do that. And then what you don't realize is it's like a 1 in 100 shot. That investor has their bets spread over like 20 or 30 different companies. Yeah. You as a founder, this is your one shot. Right. You might get 2 or 3 swings at the plate in a lifetime. You got to think about these things. It's a very all or nothing thing if you go down that path.
I had a client that got caught up in this where the people backing her just were doubling down on some advice that I knew as a business consultant wasn't going to work. I just kept looking at her going, that math don't math.
Yeah, totally.
Math don't math. And I knew that she was just under such stress, just scrutinizing every single decision. And ultimately, the money felt like it had more power than her gut instinct about the business. And it wasn't true.
Yeah. You hate to see it. And then you try to say something, but somebody has to learn that lesson themselves.
Yeah. So now that you're in it and you're looking at some of these customer feedback, you're on the phone with customers, been doing this for 10 years now. What's churning in your head and your heart now? Because typically somebody who's a find a problem and solve it person is always iterating into something bigger or different. Or is there anything up on the horizon that you've uncovered that you think, oh, maybe I should go try to solve that problem next? Or what's shifting in the industry, do you think?
It's really 2 things. One, I made a decision when I sold my first business that I was just going to work on my best idea from that point forward, no matter what. And so when the first 3 or 4 years, when it was really hard, it was by default, that was the only thing I could work on because it was the only good idea I had. And so I just kept plugging away on it. And I'm a big believer in just being the best at one thing and just focusing all of your intensity on that until you kind of get to the end of that. And for us, the market it's like a $90 billion nationwide market for this very humble chore. And we're just a drop in the bucket. So we have a long way to go to connecting more people with what it is we've built. Now, that said, at its essence, the problem we solve is you should be able to very quickly, cheaply, seamlessly get somebody to come take care of the chore of lawn mowing for you as a consumer. And then as a pro, you should be able to plug into one platform and make as much money as you want based on how hard you want to work. And those simple things have not changed in a decade. But now with AI, we're able to do a lot more magic inside of that. We're able to just dream up like, hey, what would magic look like inside of our product? What would like a 10-star experience look like? And a lot of times it's just the simple things of, okay, I hired somebody to come mow Wednesday and they did, they came and mowed, but I didn't really like the job they did. And so I want to hire somebody new, but I don't want to lose that price. And so like, what do I do? And like, well, magic would be if like you could just find somebody who was better at the same price. And so like, that's just one kind of use case that happens inside of our platform a lot. We're able to now crunch the numbers and say, okay, well, in your zip code, we have 100 contractors who have mowed similar properties at that square footage, at that housing price point. And now these are the 3 guys that we have with a 98% confidence that can mow you next Wednesday because they show up on time. Wow. And you can pick from one of these 3, and we're 98% certain that they will be there. 3 years ago, would have taken a team of data scientists, a UX, UI, like PhD, and like a room of people that collectively make $5 million a year to solve. And now with AI, with our team, our team is only about 40 people, and our people are great, but none of them, have ever worked at Google or Facebook or something.
Right.
And so it's like our team of good engineers can now execute at that level, which is a much higher level with AI, and like close the gap between like where our product is and what magic is. That's what we're focused on now with the tools that we have available today.
That's exciting. And what a great use of AI, right?
Yeah.
In a world where people fear it, thinking it's going to replace people, which is insanity. It does have that place of, like you said, creating a magical experience for people in a service that they already need.
Totally. Yeah. That's the way we see AI. And it's just that simple way of helping close the gap between what you do and magic. Mm-hmm. And just like, what if you could dream up the most magical experience inside of your business? What would that be?
Yeah.
Let's start there. Let's compare that with what reality is today. And let's just like inch our way closer and closer with the tools we have now.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, and people say to me, I kind of want to start a business, but I don't know. I'm like, you're overcomplicating it. Like, I pay somebody to pick up dog poop out of my backyard.
Yeah.
Like, there are things that people will pay you to do because they don't want to do it. And even I ran into this guy in the backyard a few weeks ago before the weather hit, and we were chatting about his business, and he's put AI and mapping software into his dog poop pickup business so that I get a text that he's on his way. So that way, if I need to bring my dogs inside, if it's that kind of situation, and it immediately invoices me, it automatically takes it out of my checking account, $16.95 a week. And I don't have to think about anything.
And see, that's the dog poop guy using AI to close the gap between what he does and magic. And this can be applied to every industry. And so that's how we think about it. That's how we see it. Just dream up what the best imaginable customer experience is, and then use that as your North Star and work inch closer to that every day.
But the big difference that you have this whole episode about is first sit down and think about, who do we serve? What do they care about? And then build magic around that.
Exactly.
Not just sitting in a vacuum and thinking, gee, I wonder what we could do because it would be cool.
What do we like? Yeah. What do we think is cool? And none of that matters. You really got to start from the customer and work backwards. If not, you'll build something that nobody wants.
And you touched on this, but I want to go just a little bit more on the relationship between you and the contractors, because these are, guys out mowing yards. How do you work on that relationship too? Because that is also key to your success. You mentioned it a little bit, but dig into that a little bit more about how you're fostering those relationships and partnerships.
Yeah, that really is why we do what we do. We offer a nice convenience to consumers. They can push a button, get this chore done, just like ordering food on DoorDash. But really why we do what we do is to help small business owners try to get where they're going and try to help them get a little slice of the American dream, try to access what a successful small business ownership kind of feels like. We have hundreds and hundreds of stories of these guys and gals where they say, hey, because of GreenPal, I was able to buy a riding mower. And like, as simple as that sounds, like That's the difference between like pushing a mower all day and like riding. And like
it's
a
a
riding
big
mower,
investment.
yeah, like a commercial riding mower is like 15 grand. They're not cheap. And then you can make more money with one of these pieces of equipment. And so helping them get more equipment, helping them, we get stories like, hey, I was able to pay off student loan debt. I was able to put a down payment on a house. I was able to put a kid through school, all these kinds of things. And so like helping these people improve their station in life, helping them get access to a platform where they can plug in, they just work hard. They don't have to worry about bookkeeping and billing and marketing. That's why we do what we do. And what we build matters. What we build is important because thousands of these small business owners rely on it every day. It's funny, like every piece of technology goes down for some reason or another. Like we were down last week or 2 weeks ago because of the Cloudflare outage.
Mm-hmm.
And now when we go down, is like the phones light up, our text chat lights up. We have a Facebook group with thousands of contractors in it. It lights up. Like, hey, what's going on? I can't get work done. What's happening? And it's like, and I hate when that happens, and we're always scrambling to get it back up. But then on the other hand, like it feels good in a little weird way. It's like, okay, at least somebody gives a crap. At least what we're building matters. It's important because 10 years ago, like we went down like half the day and when nobody ever said anything. so that sucks. That sucks when that happens. So
that's when you know you have a risk.
Yeah. So like just 2 weeks ago, I was reminded like, damn, man, what we build is the lifeblood of thousands of these small business owners, and they rely on it every day to make their living. And that's important. I take that seriously.
Oh, I love that. And really, that's in my heart of hearts what business has always meant to be about, is humans serving humans in a way that matters, and then we all get paid for it. Versus how can I go out and...
That's the reward. Yeah, that's the reward, and it only happens if you are making somebody's life a little easier, making somebody's life a little better, solving a real problem for somebody. There's just no way to get around that. At its foundation, that's what business is. And if you can start from there and build up from there, you can save yourself a lot of wasted years.
What I'm hearing from you is advice that I have given to my kids since they were little is find a need and fill it.
As simple as it sounds, find a need and fill it. One of my favorite business books is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Oh, yeah.
You start with that. And then once you nail that, start to build systems around that and to where you can scale that over and over again, McDonald's style. And that's the hard part. A lot of folks do find success in that simple piece of advice of find a need and fulfill it, but they never break out of self-employed zone. They never break out of like freelancer zone. And so it's like, okay, let's nail that. And then let's build the systems and processes around that thing that is working. The problem is a lot of founders, particularly in tech, they skip that step and then they go to the systems processes part. They're building all that scaffolding around nothing that works.
Around nothing.
Yeah. As crazy as this stuff sounds and as obvious as it sounds, billions and billions of dollars have just been crashed into the ground because they skipped that step.
But I think when you build like you have built, starting with literally mowing people's lawns, which is a service that people need, but they also have a high degree of quality interest in.
They need it.
They need it, but they also want it to be a certain kind of way, that you've taken all of that understanding of connecting to whoever you're serving. So now you're serving small business owners doing that work. That same philosophy, though, is how you're replicating across the different things that you do.
Yeah, you touched on a good point. That is, in a weird way, like a platform like ours, a marketplace like ours, is almost like a domino effect because the consumers, the homeowners, need the service done. And they're the ones who are paying. And so in a multi-sided marketplace, usually the side that's paying is the harder one to attract and keep. But on the other hand, if you don't first serve the service provider, you don't have an offering for the consumer. So it's kind of like it's like a domino. It's like you have to build something that small business owners, that landscaping service providers love and want to use every day and get value from, and will call you if it goes down because they can't make a living anymore. And only then do you have like them on the shelf, so to speak, to where consumers can order them off the shelf. And it's a weird thing that you kind of like have to domino your way into it. And if you don't first start with the supply side, you don't have a service offering for the consumer side. And it took us about 2 years to figure that out. We took the service provider side as like granted, because I came to the starting block as the contractor, and I just thought everybody wanted as much work as they could get their hands on at all times, anywhere, at any price. I'll be there, because that's kind of the mentality I had. But that's not the mentality that 99% of small business owners have. It's like, do I really want to work today? It's not really.
Sometimes people start a business because they don't want to have to show up to work every day.
I was really surprised by that when I started this company. I just thought everybody had my attitude running my landscape. They don't. It's like, oh gosh, it's kind of rainy outside. I don't feel like going out there. I'm not going to show up and mow those yards I was supposed to mow today. And so we had to build a platform that was kind of like carrot and stick. And that was something that really caught me by surprise when we first got started building this.
That's what makes life and business interesting, is we're all different down to our fingerprints, right? And so the minute you start assuming that everybody sees the situation the same as you, that's your first mistake.
Yep, totally. And you don't know until you get in there and start. It's like the Mike Tyson quote, everybody has a plan till they get punched in the nose. And that's how every single business is. You don't know what customers' expectations are. You don't know how users are going to use what it is you've built until you get it out there and get it in their hands. So the quicker you can shorten like the gap between nothing in their hands and something in their hands, the better. And there's a good quote. I can't remember who said it, but you should be embarrassed by your first release. You should be embarrassed by your first product offering. And that probably applies to every business. Like if you opened up a corner store, coffee shop or bakery or something, you should probably be a little embarrassed with how it looks, but it's okay. It's open. We're getting some feedback.
Get started.
We're putting some reps in. We're getting some liquidity going in the business. We'll improve that later. I think is probably a better strategy than just like trying to get it perfect with all of your assumptions and then launching it and then realizing everywhere that your assumptions were wrong.
100%. I had a client call this morning where none of the assignments from the last time that we had met had been done because they were over engineering and perfecting. And I was like, yeah, but nothing really happened.
Nothing is different.
Nobody saw any of the ideas that are still floating around in your head 30 days later.
Nothing is different today than the last time we talked. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's an easy trap to fall into.
Humans are funny, man. And that's what makes life.
That's all business is.
100%. Well, I am so grateful that you spent time with us today, and the number of just nuggets of leadership lessons that apply to every single business that you're in based on our conversation, I know will be helpful for our listeners. So, hey, as you're doing great things out there, anything new that's coming up, give me a call and come back and tell us how it's going.
Awesome. Will do, Rebecca. We're at around 300,000 people using it. When we get to 1 million, I'll shoot you a message and we'll come back on and talk about how we got there.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. You can follow us on Instagram, Business is Human, or TikTok, Rebecca Fleetwood Hession. It's a great way to share some of the clips with your colleagues and friends. All right. Make it a great day. Love you, mean it.